They're coming, and in some parts of southeastern Wisconsin, they are already here. The summer of 2024 is going to be a banner year for cicadas, those noisy and not terribly attractive insects that periodically emerge from the ground in the summer. But this year is different. Two groups of cicadas are emerging, and the convergence of these two broods could result in millions or even billions of cicadas across the U.S. and parts of the Midwest. Let's learn more about the cicada invasion and what it means to us here in southeastern Wisconsin from Dr. Nick Dowdy, head of zoology at the Milwaukee Public Museum. Thanks so much, Dr. Dowdy.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Okay, what are cicadas? What is their place in the insect world? And why do they live underground?
So cicadas we call them true bugs. They are insects. And they live underground. That's where they sort of develop as immature. We call them larvae, but basically they're the juveniles of cicadas. And they sit underground for many years. It depends on which species we're talking about. Some cicadas, like the ones we're talking about today, we call them periodical cicadas, meaning they stay underground for really long periods of time. But we also have annual cicadas that come out every year. They don't spend as much time underground.
So these are the periodical cicadas that are coming out of the ground. What makes it so unusual for these two broods these long-term broods, 13-year and 17-year, to come out of the ground at the same time?
Yeah, this is an unusual event. I think it only happens every about 221 years, so it's on these really big cycles, and it's because one brood only comes out every 13 years, and the other brood comes out every 17 years. So it takes time for those two broods to sort of get in sync with each other. And that happens to be 221 years.
Wow. So for most of us, this is the one opportunity for us to see it in our lifetimes.
That's right. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it myself, actually. Yeah, this only happens, every few hundred years. So this is our one opportunity. The last time this happened, I think I read that Thomas Jefferson was alive at that time. So it's been a long time.
Wow. Well, let's talk a little bit about the cicadas and when we can expect them to arrive, and how long will they be here?
Yeah, so, here in southeastern Wisconsin, we are actually only going to see one of the two broods. We're a bit too far north to get both of them. So we're going to have brood 13, which is the 17-year cicada. You have to go a little bit farther south to see brood 19, which is the 13-year cicada. It's hard to keep track of all these numbers.
A lot of numbers, yeah.
Yes. If you want to see them, you'll have to travel a bit further south. We might get some in Milwaukee County, but it's really going to be right along the border with Illinois, where you will have the best chance. So that's where you should go.
Okay. So how long, once they arrive, how long will they stay here?
Yeah, so cicadas, they live a long time underground, 13 years, 17 years, but after they emerge from the ground and we say they eclose into adults, they're only going to live for a very short time. We're talking on the order of 2 to 4 weeks, so very short period. And when they're coming is right now, really. Within the next few weeks here in Wisconsin, I think we'll be seeing them. And they'll be gone by probably the end of June. I think it will be mostly over or trailing off.
What's the trigger for them to come out of the ground, to emerge?
That's a great question. We really don't have the answer to that question, but we do know that temperature is a big part of it. So they're sort of cueing in on the temperature of the soil. So it needs to reach a certain temperature for the cicadas to begin their emergence. But some people have suggested that it's possible that there's some cue that they can get from the plants underground. So, while they're underground, they're developing and they're feeding off of the roots of plants. and the plants might be producing some kind of chemical that the cicadas sort of use to tell them it's the right time to come out.
When we think about cicadas, and particularly if you think about a lot of cicadas, they may not live long, but they do have to eat. So is there something that we should do, or should we be concerned about the cicadas when it comes to our plants? Are our pets, if they eat them, in any kind of danger?
There's absolutely no danger posed by cicadas. They don't have any biting or, piercing mouth parts. They do have, their mouth sort of looks like a straw, and so they can pierce plants with that apparatus, but they can't, pierce human skin or other animals. And they really only sort of eat the liquid of plants. So once they come out of the ground, they'll crawl up onto trees, and they will stick that straw into the trunk or the branches of trees and just drink the liquid from the trees. And so they're totally safe. There's no harm. They can, because they're in such huge numbers this year, they probably will cause some damage to certain plants, but there's nothing really to be too concerned about. It's part of sort of the natural cycle of things. And to a certain extent, the cicadas, can help control plant populations as well.
Besides being able to help control some plant populations, what's the purpose of a cicada? I mean, they're living in the ground as larvae. They come out, they mate. But what do they do? We can kind of figure out what some insects and bugs do. But what's kind of a cicada's purpose?
Yeah, so, really, that's about it. They're coming out of the ground, and it's just a big party. They're looking to mate with other cicadas and lay their eggs. But as far as, the rest of the ecosystem goes, of course, controlling plant populations is part of it. But they're also a fantastic food resource for other, predators, like things like birds or small mammals, and maybe even some humans. I know a lot of people like to talk about the potential of using cicadas in cuisine. And so they're a great source of protein for local animals.
All right. Well, we're going to have to take the word of people who think that they are a good source of protein for humans. I won't be having a cicada party and serving cicada hors d'oeuvres.
Okay. me either, honestly.
Well, Dr. Nick, thanks so much for being with us. We really appreciate you giving us the lowdown on the cicada invasion, and maybe we should just look at it as a cicada party.
That's right. I love that. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us. And thank you for joining us on Connect MKE this week. Be well, and we'll see you next week, cicadas or not.